right, a big day for UNLV basketball. Yesterday, Sunday, Zaon Collins, point guard, Bishop Gorman, top 40 kid in the nation for the class of 2021. He picks UNLV over Arizona, Arizona State, and USC of the Pac-12. Big get for TJ Otzlberger on the recruiting trail. I'm Ray Brewer alongside Mike Grimala, who covers UNLV basketball for us. Mike, this is a program-changing commitment. How significant is this for what TJ Otzlberger is trying to build at UNLV?
It's the most significant thing that probably could have happened this offseason just because of how much they wanted Zayon Collins. Like that was I said it in the story that I wrote about his commitment, but TJ Otzlberger was hired he had his introductory press conference, and then 2 days later on that Saturday, he was in an open gym, watching Zayon, and he just fell in love. He's like, we got to have this kid. This is the most important player that we need going forward for our program. They spent the next year and a half just focusing on him. He's the number one guy. He was their top priority. They recruited him the hardest. They wanted him the most. If they hadn't gotten him, it would have been pretty devastating. So to land him and to just have that in your back pocket, like secured now, TJ Otzlberger knows that he's going to have his point guard for 4 years. Like he's got it. It was huge. You really can't overstate how important he was to get for this program.
Yeah, so for me, it's significant because it's tough to attract local kids to stay home and play for UNLV. For as much as I love the university, I'm a Vegas native, went to UNLV. The 4-star kids, the 5-star kids who have better offers typically go somewhere else, right? No matter what sport you're talking about. And UNLV makes its living recruiting-wise with these 3-star kids that are being recruited regionally. But to get a kid who had better offers, I think speaks volumes about where UNLV's headed, not just basketball, but we're talking top. There's so much momentum right now at the university with the football stadium coming and just everything that's going on. And you've got a young, exciting coach in basketball with TJ Otzlberger. The facilities have always been great. And I think for me, Zayon Collins is, it signals that top-end guys can pick UNLV and come and have an impact and have a success. And if you look at what happened, the kid has just gotten so much good publicity on social media. Everybody loves the hometown university, and I think it's a win-win for everybody involved.
You mentioned, getting a kid like that locally. We know that local recruiting has been something they've focused on since Otzlberger and his staff got in here last spring. But it's been, like you said, it's been the 3-star guys. It's, they've gotten a handful of local kids, but this is the first. They sort of got 2 birds with 1 stone. They got a big local recruit to commit, and they landed their first big blue chip guy that they had to beat out, Power 5 programs. And so they sort of answered a couple questions there. And for Zayon, it does sort of open the door for local recruits to sort of consider UNLV if you are a blue chip, if you are a 4-star, 5-star kid coming up. It's like UNLV is a viable option for those type of kids. But, local recruiting has been a focal point for this coaching staff. And I think that if you have your pulse on, the local programs here. I think the local programs tend to love Otzlberger at the moment. They like how much the staff is around. They like that the staff is at their practices, at their open gyms. It hasn't always been like that in recent years. So I think he's got a pretty good relationship locally with most of the movers and the shakers on the local recruiting scene, AAU and high school ball. And that may have helped them here. And it's a big recruiting win. It just continues that local pipeline that they've been trying to develop and to keep some of these kids home.
Yeah, I think you bring up a real valid point. The fact that not only was Zayon Collins a highly coveted local recruit, he was also a highly coveted local recruit from Bishop Gorman. And Bishop Gorman's a national program, plays on ESPN. ranked nationally. Zayon's been their starting point guard since his freshman year. But Bishop Gorman's also coached by Grant Rice, who's coached Dave Rice's younger brother. Grant played like his brother for UNLV, so he's a rebel. We jokingly call it the Harvard of the West. And obviously, there was some hard feelings between the Rice family and UNLV after Dave was fired. So for TJ to go into Gorman and get Grant to support him enough to help, to not hurt the process with Zayon, I think speaks volumes. And I know that all the high school coaches that I talked to just love TJ and how he's gone out in the community and just been a good steward. And I think everybody from Bishop Gorman and its staff to Vegas Elite and its staff, they love what TJ's building, and they definitely now have the one marquee guy to lead the way. And Zayon's got to have success at UNLV, and if he does, I think it's going to open the door for other kids to follow in his footsteps. But Mike, what does Zayon do well? For me, he's the best defender I've seen in 20 some years of covering high school basketball here, but he just does so much more. And I think part of it is IQ, but what for you stands out about this prospect?
You've seen him a lot more than I have. I've seen him, I think, 4 or 5 games in person, but it's the speed, it's the control in the open court. Like if he's got the ball on a fast break, the ball's going in the hoop, whether he puts it in, whether he gives it to one of his teammates for an easy shot. Like if he's in the open court, that ball's going through the rim. Really smart, makes the right decisions pretty much all the time. Improving shooter, but he can score in the half court. He drives by his man. Like you mentioned, the defense, like he gets after it on the defensive end. I think that as soon as he steps on campus next year, they're going to put the ball in his hand. He's the starting point guard. Coaches are not allowed to comment on unsigned recruits, but from what I can tell, they think that Zayon is going to be the best point guard in the Mountain West for 4 years. Like they've got really high expectations for him. So I think as soon as he gets to campus, like he's the guy. They build the team around him. Everyone fits in around him. He's the starter. They play that Zayon style of basketball. They're going to play multiple guards, 3, maybe 4 guards. They're going to get up and down the floor, space, quickness, everything that he brings. That's what it's going to be. This is going to be his team as soon as he gets here for 4 years. So I think that's as to the individual strengths and weaknesses, you could probably speak more to that than I can. But yeah, they love pretty much everything that he does and everything he can bring. The team is going to look like his game.
Yeah, so he's great in transition. I mean, just absolutely superb in transition. Is always in attack mode. Could get to the rim himself. Could make a good pass to a shooter. Remember, he's been flanked with Noah Tapes the last few years. A great high school shooter in his own right. But just an amazing defender. Averaged 3 steals a game last year. And smart with the basketball. Knows what knows where he wants to go. Jaden Hardy, Amari's brother, who's like top 5 recruit in the nation for 2021. A guy who everybody thinks is going to be in the NBA sooner than later. I've heard people say they'd rather have Zaon Collins in their program over Jaden Hardy. Collins is just a winner. He's won at Gorman. You look at this past season where a lot of the team was regulated because of injuries, and Collins carried them to a state championship. They lost 2 games, playing a national schedule, and some of the players on that team ended up going to college to play because they were surrounded by a guy like Zaon Collins. So he just makes everybody better. Cannot tell you how this is a game changer for TJ Othelsberger. I actually think they got a good chance looking forward, Mike, to get Milos Uzane from Desert Pines as well, another top 50 kid. He's for class of 2022.
Yeah, and it's I talked to Otzelberger just in general about his philosophy on roster building and the kind of team he wants to build. I think that stretch that they went on towards the end of last year where they played 4 guards and they played 2 point guards together. They played Marvin Coleman and Elijah Mitchell-Long together for big minutes, and they were just offensively and defensively killing everyone. I think that's sort of Otzelberger already, he tended to favor that pace, space and guard heavy offense, but I think that really opened their eyes as to like 4 guards is something that they think they can probably do full time or the majority of the time. So they've got Zaon Collins for 2021. They've got Keyshawn Gilbert for 2021, another point guard. So just because they've got Zayon and he's going to be a 4-year starter, that doesn't preclude them from going after someone like Uzan, who I know that they want. Like, that's a real offer. That's a guy they really want. So yeah, you can see them. They're just going to collect these guards. They want multiple playmakers and shooters on the floor. They'll figure out the size as they go. But yeah, Collins is. You mentioned the fast break, and there was a game that I covered where he was running a fast break and he threw an alley-oop from beyond the arc to Mwani Wilkinson, who dunked it. And I was just thinking, like, to myself, like, I don't know how many duos in the Mountain West could connect on a play like that. That's the kind of talent that he's got. So right from day one, like, he's going to be in there. He's going to be making those kind of plays, and they're going to be relying on him to do that. But yeah, that's what he brings to the table.
Yeah, so your starting 5, whenever we get a season in 2020-21, would be David Jenkins, Marvin Coleman, and who else?
Bryce Hamilton, Mbake Jeong at center. And then the question is, do you play a 4th guard or do you play a power forward? I think they'll give Eduardo Del Cadia the first look there. He's big, but he can still shoot. So you're hoping for the best of both worlds if he can do the job. And if he can't, then you can slide in Caleb Grill or Nick Blake or whichever 4th guard wins that job, with a little bit of size, and you can play 4 guards and 1 center. But yeah, that's what I think it's looking like for this coming year. And then the year after that, you're looking at, if Jenkins stays for another year, he'll be a starter. I think Hamilton's gone after this year. So you're probably looking at a Coleman, Collins backcourt with Jenkins as your shooting guard, and then like Grill, Blake, Del Cadia, those guys filling in those 4 or 5 spots.
Unless they get the 5-star wing that now all of a sudden the crystal ball says they get a little better of a chance.
I think they're probably the favorites for him right now. If you're talking about Arthur Kaluma, who is a top 20, I think he's 19 or top 30 player in the country, 5-star kid, 6'8", power forward, but sort of like an athlete scorer, a guy who could definitely run the open court and fill some lanes for Zayon 2 years from now. But yeah, it's kind of, as a fan, like, it's got to be exciting for you. You first, the Otzelberger's first year, you see the roster is maybe not the most talented, but you see him just coach the heck out of it. And by the end of the year, they're playing well as anyone in the Mountain West. And you beat San Diego State on the road, and you win 6 in a row, and you're looking great. If you think, now if you just start adding 4- and 5-star talent to that mix, you got to be pretty excited about what that could mean for the program going forward under Otzelberger, right?
Mm-hmm, absolutely. I mean, I think that the way they finished the season last year kind of helped pave the way for the commitment last night from Zaon Collins. Mike, I love doing these chats with you. This is our first time doing a video one. You're at home. I'm in the newsroom. Football's interesting. You had a great story last week or yesterday about Marcus Arroyo's message is really resonating on the recruiting trail. UNLV right now has the best recruiting class for 2021 in the Mountain West. Is this guy just got the secret sauce, or is he able to relate to players good?
I think Arroyo and his staff are just they're good communicators from what I can tell. They connect with the players, which is the number one most obvious thing you have to do. You talk to any recruit who commits to any school, and they'll say, I had a connection with the coaching staff. That's what they always say. But the next step beyond that is how are you creating that connection? What are you doing to foster it? And I think that's what's interesting. One of the recruits told me that, he was on a regular Zoom meeting with the coaching staff, like you and I are on right now. And he just one of the coaches struck up a conversation with him. And then after the recruiting meeting, they're circling back and just playing Madden and just hanging out. And like, that's kind of going, in my opinion, that's going the extra mile and really coming down to these kids' level and seeing the world from their perspective and kind of making it happen. So that's something that is noteworthy, and sort of this type of things they're doing. The quarterback that they just got a commitment from Hawaii, he said that every coach on the staff wrote him a letter sort of just introducing themselves as coaches, which is like another, I think, interesting touch. And just things like that are just a little bit out of the ordinary, but pretty useful in letting these kids know how much you want them. And even though there's a pandemic and you can't have visits and you can't recruit normally, there are still creative and different things you can do to foster a connection between them and get these players. And we've seen it working, because now they've got, almost 20 kids, 20 high school prospects committed. They've got the #1 class in the Mountain West. They're all like 3-star kids. A lot of them are the best players, best recruits at their position that UNLV has ever got commitments from. So it's working right now on the recruiting trail, and that's a good sign for, this being their first off season on the job.
Exactly. All right. Well, Mike, always good catching up. I appreciate all our listeners / fans for watching our video, and we look forward to the coverage. And whenever there's a game, we'll be there. For Mike, I'm Ray.